Wow! This has been a very busy year for you.
It's crazy, yeah.
So the podcast is out. How did you come to do this podcast? How did this begin for you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you good? I'm okay. Thank you. When I was in college, my homie Peter sent me an article and he said, "Yo, Rivas, check this out." And it was this Vanity Fair article about Porfirio Ruirosa. And I went down the rabbit hole, which is really easy to do with this man. And I found out that he was the inspiration for Bond, James Bond. I didn't mean to do it like that. And I was a brown actor in a mainly white conservatory. And as a kid, I wanted to be Bond. Like, I was like, I'm gonna play James Bond, I can do this. And I would run around in my tighty whities, like all my Nerf guns, and I would pretend to be Bond. The accent and everything. And so when I read this article, I thought, what if I wasn't pretending to be a white man and I was pretending to be myself? You know, like brown, pretending to be my father. If I didn't want to always look like them, but I could honor my own beauty, and my own voice, and my own work. And so this kind of like shattered it really fucked with me for a while, because I couldn't do anything without thinking about, you know, race and brownness, and why am I doing this, and why do I date this person, why do I like this, and so I started writing about it all. And I wrote this play called The Real James Bond Was Dominican. Thank you. Good play. And then we took that around the country, and one of the producers of that play is here, Amanda. And that found its way to Stitcher, and Abigail's Genius. And I mean genius when I say that. And we made this unbelievable show where we go to the DR, we go to Paris, we go to all these places. We meet people who are still alive, who knew him, who were there the night he died. We ask really big questions about what it means to be a person of color in this world. Whose eyes do we want to be seen by? What's all the hustle for? Is it worth it? What does it mean to rest? What does it mean to unplug from whiteness and to tell a new story? Yeah, that's what I got.
So is that, you know, what makes it relevant to the culture now? Like, what is it?
It's relevant to the culture now because Bond is one of the most successful Bond is more than Bond. It is a symbol for what we believe and what we see. We see them over and over and over again. And how many characters there's so much beautiful brown genius in here, right? Like, that's kind of the goal of my work, is to put brown genius on blast, the pool of brown genius. And there's so much beauty in here, and stories, and salsa, and poetry, and Nuyorican, and history, and all of this stuff. And what if our heroes looked a little different? They didn't always look white, you know, and I wasn't always told that this is what I needed to be, sound like, this is who I needed to impress. What if that wasn't the case? You know, what if my parents didn't need to decide to assimilate? They could own themselves instead of being like, you know what, I need to adapt in order to receive these checks from my white bosses. And so I think that's why it's really relevant to the culture, because Bond is really just a symbol for America, for colonizers, for the colonizing mind and what it means to unplug.
Yeah, I never saw it like that. So which was your favorite Bond growing up, though? Which is the one you grew up with?
You know, that's not, we talk about this on the podcast, it's not fair. I like Pierce because it was my time.
Ah, shit.
You know, I like Pierce.
So I like Roger Moore.
Yeah, I like Pierce at my time, yeah.
So,
actually, I think Daniel Craig was the shit.
Roger Moore.
Roger Moore, baby. Are you kidding? My pizza man looked like Roger Moore. So do you think...
You was always getting sliced. He was like, yo, you can just shit.
So, do you see yourself being a Latino James Bond? Like, you know, do you see yourself...
So that used to be the goal, right? Like, I mean, look, like I said, don't get it twisted. Like, you ask me to play Bond, I'm gonna be like, yeah. You know, I got student loans, you know? I can use the check, but also, Do we need, Bond is a colonizer, right? He goes into these places and destroys things. Do we need a Bond, or we do need to let that character die and build something new? So I think, and I won't give the answer away. I don't know the answer. But yeah, you gotta listen. Did you subscribe? Y'all gonna get raffle tickets. I had to see you take out your phone and subscribe. That's what you do now to get a raffle ticket. Because the swag is dope, and buy that book.
And the time flies, and by the end, you're gonna be like, I should have done it. So you can do it
The
now.
hoodies is tight.
So I know that there's a lot of episodes, right? So
There's 10 episodes. 2 are out, there's 10. 8 more weeks of magic.
So then, the first time that you went to the Dominican Republic was because of
For this podcast.
what?
Yeah.
What?
Again, thank you, Abigail.
So you had never gone to DR, your motherland.
I'd never been, my fatherland. Colombia is your motherland. I'd taken myself to Colombia, but I never took myself to the DR. I'd always wondered why. My sister got to spend summers there, many summers. And I was disconnected from that part of my history, of my blood, of my ancestry. And I always wondered why, but I never really asked. And in this podcast, we asked. We asked, why wasn't it important that I knew that part of your family, that I knew that place? And so, it feels like a spoiler, but yeah, we go out there. I meet family I've never met before. We have this unbelievable, it's crazy, it gives me chills. We have this incredible time. We go to Ruby's hometown.
What's this hometown?
My father cries a lot. San Francisco de Macorís. It is wild. We have a lot of revelations about why my parents sort of had this disconnect with me and not my sister. And a lot of it does have to do with sort of assimilation and the American dream and moving forward and mobility and all of that stuff that's sold to us on a daily basis.
So once you experienced the Dominican Republic, your fatherland, which was more lit, Colombia or DR?
Put me in a tight spot.
Say Puerto Rico, say it.
I ain't gonna lie, I had a good old time in Colombia, Part of it, my parents weren't there, and it was different.
What can we learn about toxic masculinity from Ruby Rosa and this whole episode in Colombia? No, I'm just kidding.
Y'all know How many people here know Tigre? Yeah, like Tigreismo and all that.
In DR, there's a Tigerachi. I know a
Tigerachi?
Yeah, I know a Tigerachi.
What does it mean we really ask a lot of questions about what it means to be a man in the narrative of Tigre and Tigreismo and manliness, and that culture in the DR, but also here, and how and Bond is a Tigre, let's be honest, like through and through. And that image sold to us, how does it not just affect men, but culture, women as well? And so yeah.
Did you answer the question?
I'm trying not to give it away. I know Abigail gave me a look already when I said the stuff about the DR. So I'm like,
okay, so then let's go to this question. How have you navigated unlearning similar behaviors?
Oof, that's the story of my life right now. Unlearning, I think everything is a story. When you've been made to believe, or, hey, what up? They should know this too. Everything is a story. When you've been made to believe or chosen to believe, and knowing the difference is profound. I believe that's why personal storytelling is so important, because it allows us to disrupt what narratives am I plugged into, and it allows us to say, do I still need this story? Because you might not be ready to unplug, because unplugging is a little scary, it's a little intense, but you might be ready. this journey of Rubirosa, of Brown Enough, of all of my art is about asking really fat questions. I care less about answers and I care more about asking big questions. It's a persistent problem is a proper question not yet asked. And Rilke says, maybe I can live myself into an answer. And so I try to put myself in spaces where I can ask really big, challenging, difficult questions. Why do I do this? Why do I like this? Why does it matter so much? Who do I want to be seen by? Why is there this chip on my shoulder? Why am I working so hard? Why don't I just take a fucking nap? Why don't I step back? You know, like, and really being honest with myself. A little radical responsibility, radical honesty. Who's it all for? So this whole podcast is 10 episodes of unplugging, and then what it turns in after that is a 40 episode podcast called Brown Enough, the same title as my book, where we put brown genius on blast. We interview incredible brown everything, makers, creators, innovators, and we put them on blast, and we learn what it is to unplug and unlearn, and tell a new story about who we are and what space we take up in the world.
So you did Rubirosa the podcast, and you did Brown Enough the podcast,
Yeah.
which is also the title of your new book.
That's right.
So tell us about your book.
Yeah, I wrote a book.
How long did you write it?
My whole life, right? You know, I got the offer during the pandemic, and I write pretty fast. It was the editing took about a year, putting the puzzle together. Brown Enough comes from two things. It really comes, Ruby was a big moment. It was a big awakening. The other moment is I saw Ta-Nehisi Coates speak at an event, not much bigger than this. I don't know if y'all know Ta-Nehisi. He's like our modern day James Baldwin, some people say. And he was speaking about black and white, which is something he does, and race in America. And I raised my hand and I asked a question. I said, black and white is all I hear. As an Afro-Latino, Dominican, Colombian, brown man, where does that put me in the conversation? He said, not in it. And they took the mic back. I was like, yeah, not in it. And I went home and I didn't sleep. And I wondered what it meant to be in it. And I wondered what my life would have been like had I been in it. And I wondered about this spectrum in between white and black. Everything in between. And I don't just mean Latinos. Latinos are great, but, you know, South Asian, most of the world is brown.
Is that Presidente running on the ground?
Oh.
That's for the spirits. You don't offer it, they take it.
She runs the space. She's like,
Do you need a napkin? Serious? No, you're good. Okay.
what does it mean to take up space in between white and black? What does it mean to take up space, to not try and fit into here or here, but to just embody your own space, your own line, your own shade, your own hue, your own power, your own voice, your own work. And that's just not my space, that's your space. Like, there isn't a box that can hold any one of us. And this world loves boxes. We love he, she. We love yes, no. We love sick, not sick. We love this or that. We struggle with binary. We struggle with, but you are not a fucking box. A single slash cannot contain anyone in this room. And so I wrote a manifesto that's like, what does my life look like if I'm not just contained? If I'm not just this somewhere here or here, but I'm the whole fucking spectrum. And then enoughness, I mean, shit, you know. How many of us feel like we're actually enough? It's a lot of work. And I'm tired of trying to prove that I'm enough. It's a beautiful feeling to wake up every once in a while and know I am enough. I get to rest in that enoughness. There's like radical power that takes place when you rest in your enoughness. I'm gonna read the intro.
I was going to say, you're going to give me a passage.
I'm not gonna read the whole intro. It's 3 pages. I can read it, right?
Yeah, it's a poet's cafe.